I figured maybe a bit of this anti-Democrat partisanship that Yellowhammer News has would get me in the door, right? Because I wrote a piece attacking Democrats for good reason.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Yellowhammer News is they're this multimedia, quote unquote news organization, right, in Alabama, and they say that they want to be a source for Alabamians to get their news about the state. From their website, they say, quote, "Our mission is to tell readers something that they did not know about something they love. The great state of Alabama. Whether breaking news, hometown stories, or sharp political coverage, Yellowhammer News strives to deliver the highest quality content with integrity." Wow. Integrity. Importantly, though, they also want to base these stories in fact. Again, from their website, they say facts are the lifeblood of our media outlet. Yellowhammer strives to deliver content based in fact and edifying for the consumers of our content. Yellowhammer's process of content creation consists of numerous levels of fact-checking and careful editing. Creating trustworthy content is essential to the duties we owe our consumers. And they acknowledge that maybe they're going to get some things wrong every now and then, and maybe their coverage is going to need updating, or maybe they'll need some additional context. That's pretty humble of them. Here's from the same section of their website, quote, "While Yellowhammer endeavors toward perfection, no one is perfect. Therefore, we constantly monitor our content should the need arise for updates and corrections, and make appropriate notations of such when necessary. Yellowhammer as an organization encourages the consumers of our content to inform us if and when they see content in need of corrections or updates." That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. So, I assumed, as any normal person would, that maybe they take the stuff that they write half serious. Maybe they half mean it, and they put it on their website, right? So that, just kind of on that assumption, I think, in my view, that the strike involving 1,000 coal miners and their families in rural Alabama, the strike involving 1,000 coal miners that's been going on for over 500 days, over a year and a half, the longest strike in the state's history, is definitely an important story for our state. And their coverage of this issue has been severely, severely lacking. In fact, since the strike began a year and a half ago, I can only find 3 articles about it on their website. The first came the day the strike began, and in this article titled, get this, "Warrior Met Coal, our priority is keeping people employed with long-lasting careers." That's the title of the article covering the strike the day it begins, from Yellowhammer News. In this article, they do not get the perspective of a single coal miner a single time. Instead, the whole article is literally a reprint of the press release of the international private equity firm owned Warrior Met Coal. Yellowhammer News readers do not hear about all the things as the strike is beginning. Yellowhammer News readers do not hear about all the things that these miners gave up to save the company from bankruptcy in 2016. They don't hear about the long hours. They don't hear about the $7 an hour pay cut. They don't hear about cuts to their health care, cuts to their retirements. None of the sacrifices that the workers made to keep this company afloat, the company that Walter Scheller and his cronies on the board took into bankruptcy. Walter Scheller, the CEO of Warrior Met Coal, also the CEO of Walter Energy, which he took into bankruptcy with the rest of the board of Walter Energy and retained their position as CEO and board of directors after it was repurchased by international private equity firms. They got to keep their jobs and they did not take a pay cut. In fact, they have gotten significant pay increases. Yellowhammer News don't read any of that, though. They only read Yellowhammer News readers only read what it is that Yankee capitalists are saying about this strike. That's the only thing that they're reading. The second came in October. In this one, yet again, we simply get a reprint of a Warrior Met press release about, quote, union violence. You don't get any comment from the union. You don't hear about the violence that the strikers are going through. You don't hear that they've been hit on the picket lines by bosses and scabs. You don't hear that scabs have shot at them with guns on the picket line. You don't hear that the union says in many of the videos that Warrior Met put out that they're highly edited and that what happened before is actually that the scabs hit the strikers first. So you've got these videos of striking coal miners, breaking car windows, and you'll say, wow, oh man, that sounds terrible. Oh no, they hurt somebody's property. The horror of it. But what you don't see in those videos that Warrior Met put out is that actually what happened is that the car hit them. And then they defended themselves. You don't hear that Alabama state troopers with our tax dollars are giving Alabama coal miners who are on strike tickets for going the speed limit. Alabama state troopers on our dime, right? Their labor is being paid for by public money. They're pulling over striking Alabama coal miners for going the speed limit in front of emergency escorts of out-of-state scabs. Yellowhammer News readers don't get any of this. They don't get any of that. They just get the press release by the company owned by Yankee capitalists. The third and final article on the strike came in October. In this one, you guessed it, they reprinted the company's press release accusing the striking miners without evidence of an explosion that happened at the mine. Yellowhammer News readers don't hear that the union condemned this act. They don't hear that there is no evidence to support any connection to the union. And they don't hear that now, over half a year later, Yellowhammer News has not provided an update saying that there has still been no evidence provided that this is connected to the union, despite the company so desperately wanting this to be the case. So desperately wanting this to be the case that they issued a $25,000 reward for information leading to the capture of the guilty party. A $25,000 reward, and over 6 months later, nothing has connected this explosion to the union. And Yellowhammer News readers do not hear that, but they might still remember that article from back in October when Warrior Met accused them of the explosion. And let's remember for a second who the two sides are. On the one hand, we've got a group of Alabama coal miners who have been mining there for, in some cases, literally actually generations. You've got actual generations of coal miners in this mine, some fathers and sons actually working in there together currently, or were doing it. You've got folks in that mine who are mining the same place as their granddaddy. They are organized into a union that is run by and for coal miners. The entire operating revenue of the United Mine Workers of America is made up from member dues. Its members are almost entirely Southern. The headquarters is in West Virginia. The president of the International Union is a Vietnam veteran. Salt of the earth people, if ever the name could be applied to anybody, right? And people who gave up so much 5 years ago to bring the company out of bankruptcy. $6 an hour pay cuts, let's remember, 20% cuts to their health care, working 7 days a week in many instances. And what are they asking for? Simply a return to the pre-bankruptcy status quo. And who do we have on the other side? We've got a group of executives that steered Walter Energy into bankruptcy in 2015, a CEO whose pay has almost tripled since then, and a group of executives who got to keep their jobs after steering the company into bankruptcy have gotten similar raises. It's a company that's owned by a consortium of international private equity firms, BlackRock in New York, Fidelity in DC. There's one from Australia and several others. Millionaires who are saying that Alabama coal miners don't deserve what they have now, much less restoring the status quo. And Yellowhammer News, let's remember, supposedly an Alabama outlet dedicated to journalism that reflects our people, our state, and our culture. Yellowhammer News isn't even telling its readers both sides of the story, much less siding with, quote unquote, our people. I have informally pitched people with connections to write about the strike. I've informally pitched people with connections to Yellowhammer News to write about the strike for them. This whole time I have. Always being told that they wouldn't be interested. But recently I wrote a piece for In These Times that takes Democrats to task for not supporting these miners despite saying they are pro-union. And so, I figured maybe a bit of this anti-Democrat partisanship that Yellowhammer News has would get me in the door, right? Because I wrote a piece attacking Democrats for good reason. And so I did formally pitch it to their editor-in-chief. And about a month later, I never got a reply. So, whatever. I figure it's not happening. And I mention it on Twitter. I say we pitched this article, which was run by In These Times magazine and the Alabama Political Reporter, to Yellowhammer News' Dylan Smith as well. It'd be the first piece in Yellowhammer News, which is a news source ostensibly for Alabama citizens, about the strike that wasn't a reprint of the Warrior Met press release, which is factually true. It would be, if they had run my piece, it would be the first article in Yellowhammer News about the strike that was not a reprint of a Yankee capitalist press release. That is factually accurate. And to which Dylan Smith replied that his feelings were hurt. He said, quote, "Communications 101, shred the outlet that you're lobbying to have place your content. Brilliant strategy." And yeah, look, buddy, I don't care if you run my piece. I don't care if you run my piece. I get it run elsewhere. I can talk on the radio. I'm on multiple stations. I don't need my piece to be run in your outlet. I would love for your readers to get a bit of objectivity. I would love for them to hear about the strike from somebody other than bankers. That would be nice. But it doesn't matter to me. But it very much hurt his feelings. And, look, if he cares as editor-in-chief of Yellowhammer News about fulfilling its mission statement, if he cares about bringing important news stories to their readership driven by facts and integrity, it shouldn't matter to him if the facts about their coverage of this strike so far hurt his feelings. In fact, I would think a person driven by integrity would be stung, but thankful for the criticism. And they would strive to do better if they were driven by integrity. I know that I don't let personal relationships affect my coverage. In fact, I've covered issues where I feel like some people involved have personally wronged me in certain ways. And yet I set that aside and I cover the issue in a way that I think politically makes sense. I set aside and cover the issue truthfully and accurately because I care about the other people involved, my sisters, my brothers, other working Alabamians, more than I care about my own hurt feelings and personal grudges. That's the way that I think media ought to operate. Instead, while masquerading itself as a voice for the people of Alabama, Yellowhammer News is nothing more than a mouthpiece for Yankee capital as it attempts to ground our fellow citizens to dust. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.